Vaccination is perhaps one of the most routine aspects of our medical care. Most of us here will have had numerous vaccinations, we've probably still got more to come. But at the same time, vaccination is, I think, one of the most politically charged issues in medicine. Some of you may be familiar, just to give one example, of the controversy around the MMR vaccine, following research published which suggested a link to autism, now roundly discredited. But despite this, the MMR autism scam had a huge impact on public confidence in vaccination, the effect of which is still felt today. So while this particular controversy is new, fear, suspicion, worries around vaccination certainly is not new. Resistance to vaccination has existed as long as there has been vaccination. In 1798, the Gloucestershire doctor, Edward Jenner, proved experimentally that infection with cowpox, a much milder disease than smallpox, could protect someone from infection with smallpox. Smallpox was a fearsome, disfiguring disease, highly deadly and responsible for a great many deaths. And this finding that if you were exposed to cowpox could prevent you from getting it was considered a huge step in medicine. Edward Jenner was showered with gifts and praise. He received £10,000 from Parliament, which was a huge amount of money at that time, and he is still remembered today as a hugely important figure in the history of medicine. But the reaction among the public to vaccination is quite a different story. Many people feared the effects of what was still a novel procedure. There were worries that vaccination, for example, could cause blood poisoning. Lots of people very much disliked the idea that having matter from a cow introduced into your body was not something that they wanted to happen to them particularly, and there was a lot of concern, genuine concern, that this might cause deformities to people. In 1853, the Vaccination Act was passed, and this leads to resistance to vaccination ramping up considerably. So what this act did is it forced parents to get their babies vaccinated against smallpox. Any baby under 3 months had to be vaccinated. Resistance came across the social spectrum, and people voiced a real dislike to the idea of state intervention in their medical care, the state dictating the medical treatment of their children. Tales proliferated of botched vaccinations. Parents who refused to have their children vaccinated were considered heroes by the anti-vaccination movement. And marches spun up all across the country where effigies of Edward Jenner were burnt and even decapitated sometimes. So the poem you're about to hear is from 1877. It's from a journal called the National Anti-Compulsory Vaccination Report. I always forget that, it is not a catchy title. And the journal was one of 3 that was completely dedicated to the anti-vaccination cause during this time, so to give you a sense of just quite how big it was. It was edited and published by a woman called Mary Hugh Mothery, who I suspect also may have written this poem, I can't say for sure. And she was interested in a whole array of radical movements. She was interested in spiritualism, vegetarianism, homeopathy, hydropathy, and she was also very interested in gender equality as well, and she was quite a key person in the move to get women permitted into the medical profession. The anti-vaccination cause was very fragmented as well. You had kind of hotbeds of resistance in certain towns like Leicester and Manchester, and the journals were really important in bringing anti-vaccinationists together. These journals often published poems and songs, which probably would have been sung at rallies and meetings and so forth. And the one we hear today was originally set to a tune called Bow Wow Wow, which was apparently a great hit in the music halls of the 19th century. So the tune would have been instantly recognisable to many people. And the song you'll hear picks up on references which would have been familiar to people involved in the movement, references to blood poisoning, to cows as well. Cows feature quite heavily. But the song also satirised broader concerns people had about medicine at this time. So there's a reference you might hear to bloodletting. Around this time there was growing doubt among the public about bloodletting, about whether it actually did anything. And so that is satirised in it. You may also pick up on a reference about doctors' fees as well, which we heard a little bit about in the Shaw reading as well. And doctors were often depicted as greedy, money-grabbing, and there was a lot of concern that doctors vaccinated simply to get additional money from the state. So when it comes to 19th century medicine, I think few areas conjured up as much drama as vaccination did. The pamphlets, the caricatures, the poems and songs of the anti-vaccination movement relied on artistic and literary tools to try and gain popular support for their campaign. So without further ado, I will pass over to Paul.
Thank you. And I apologise I'm not singing it. Imagine I am. I sing a great discovery. The greatest e'er was known, sir. So far beyond old-fashioned ways of letting well alone, sir. All evils now are but a joke. We smile at more taxation. East winds, dear coals, so long as we can get our vaccination. Our doctors, they know everything. At least we have been taught so. When they said bleeding saved our lives, of course we always thought so. And when some years ago they took pains to preserve the nation, we followed suit to them and went bang for inoculation. Next, calomel was all the rage. Our systems it was soaked in. Then scores of drugs of dire effect we all were nearly choked in. But all at once it burst upon MD's imagination that what we all were wanting was simply vaccination. I know our doctors everywhere are quite disinterested, as you, in your experience, no doubt have often tested. But yet I can't help saying still, so leads my cogitation, but for the fees, the devil, he might take the vaccination. We only ask to have fair play, nor would we crush another. We wish to judge but for ourselves, nor answer for our brother. If blood, as God created it, needs some adulteration, why poison yours, but don't make me a prey to vaccination. If vaccination is the boon they're always telling you, sir, why don't the little children live much longer than they do, sir? They die more quickly nowadays, whatever be their station. At any rate, their lives aren't saved by all our vaccination. The cures that are effected, and in which they take such pride, sir, are like the Irish cow, which was cured until it died, sir. But now I will conclude my rhyme with more of execration at England being forced to wound her babes with vaccination.